Welcome to Vanishing Gates. I'm Jay, and I'm joined by...
The cigarless Jack.
They're behind you.
Katie Cat.
Yeah. Anyway, so it is the show after the 4th of July. I'm very tired, so bear with me. I'm very worn out.
It's been a busy couple of days.
The 4th of July, and then a birthday party yesterday.
Yeah.
And then her birthday is this week. So this is her birthday episode. Let me say happy birthday to Katie Cat. She's a strapping 17 and a half years old today.
Oh, God.
A kid.
No, I'm
definitely not in her 30s.
No.
No, definitely not.
No.
I'm old enough to drink.
I would hope so. You've been doing it for
I'm
all this
just
time.
old enough to drink.
But as it's your birthday episode, it wouldn't be a birthday without a little bit of cake.
Oh, jeez.
I have a chocolate bundt cake.
Well, thank you.
I don't have any candles.
It's not my birthday yet.
There might be some fireworks over there.
My birthday's on
I'm gonna let
Tuesday.
a sparkler on top of it.
Put a sparkler on top of it.
You try and blow it out.
Light your hair on fire. That'd be gnarly. So, being that it's Katie's birthday episode, we figured we'd talk about a little something a little close to home for her. Now, she's not from here. She's from the Bay Area.
Mm-hmm.
So, the Bay Area, where Katie's from, is part of California. Those of you who don't know, that's the Bay Area we're talking about. I've heard there's other Bay Areas.
Like
There's
the
really one.
Middle of California.
It's Central
Yeah.
California.
It's
Yeah.
Central California, not
Central,
Northern California.
Central.
Western.
Yes, it's the coast.
The West Coast.
It's about 300 miles of north after San Francisco.
Well, yeah.
People.
So, but the Bay Area consists of places like San Francisco, obviously, and the adjacent cities, Santa Rosa, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, Katie Cat obviously went to school in that area. And tell us about your high school, Katie Cat.
Well, I grew up in Half Moon Bay area, so on the coast. Moss Beach, more, if anybody knows that.
Yeah, spray
area.
that beach down so it's safe to walk on, for fuck's sake.
Mossy Beach. No. Mavericks, if anybody, I'm sure most people know about Mavericks, you know.
I don't.
You don't know about surfing.
He's, you know, the famous surfer,
Maverick?
I don't even know.
So you
Just Mavericks Beach.
That was an excellent example of
Mavericks Beach, where they have the big surf competition every year and
yeah.
all that. But yeah, Half Moon Bay High School is where I went to high school. So.
Well, tell us about the school itself. What's it like? What's the community like in Half Moon Bay?
Small, very small. Well, I haven't been there in like 10 years, so it's probably changed since then.
Okay, how was it when you were a kid? 'Cause
But
that's closer to what
when
we're
I
talking
grew up there, it was a very tiny like farm town. So it was like farms and beach. Beachy farm, kind of both.
about. Beachy Farm remembers.
Beachy farm, and it's mostly made up of white and Hispanic people.
Which is like 99% of California.
Yeah.
So how many schools are in Half Moon Bay? How many high schools?
How many high schools? I think there were only one. I think it was just my high school.
Okay,
And
so
then you'd go over Devil's Slide to Pacifica, and they had their high school. They were like the rivals.
okay,
Yeah.
so Pacifica High versus Half Moon Bay High.
Kind of, yeah.
And
I think they played football against each other and stuff like that.
Now in the 70s they were probably all a little high.
Probably.
420. And but something else that happened there in the 70s.
Speaking of the 70s, that was
My
such a segue.
Yeah. My mom would know. My mom and dad would know. They were there in the 70s. So.
So the school itself, though, like, what's it like? Like, what's the high school experience there? Is it like a rundown school? Is it like one big building? Is it multiple buildings?
It was pretty nice high school. Everything was outdoors. So, you know how most high schools, like, it's all inside and the lockers are inside and hallways and stuff like that?
Is there a Scarman Weenus?
What? Anyway, moving along.
That was random. But our high school was totally like outdoors, so all our lockers were outside. You'd have to walk around campus outside to get to your classes, and it was older, but they were like renovating it when I was going to school there. So.
Okay.
Yeah, it was like a normal high school, pretty much.
How were the teachers there?
Yeah, they were okay.
They were killer.
So they were an upgrade from who we're talking about today.
Oh yeah, they were like normal teachers. Some of them were bitches, and some of them weren't.
Don't name.
Hold on.
Don't name.
I
bitches.
want to
Just
say,
let it go.
I want to say, as someone who has gotten old now, I completely understand where teachers come from who are assholes sometimes. It's not until you get like the adult age you're kind of like, yeah, now I get it.
Kids can be really annoying.
I literally,
I
when you play
it as a kid.
one day of my adulthood playing Modern Warfare 2 lobby, I was like, yes.
Right.
Now it all makes sense.
I get why they were kind of cunty.
It's fine. We're already there.
They were kind of cunty towards some of the kids.
You didn't have to follow up by saying it again.
Yeah, you didn't have to continue that. It's not like the fuck counter.
We're going to have to go and edit that
No,
somehow.
but I actually had some really nice teachers, and then I had some really crappy ones. That's what happens. So.
Yeah. So the reason I bring this up is because her teachers were cool, but not all the teachers that were at that high school were cool. Before Katie was a student there, there was a teacher named Jim Mordecai. Jim Mordecai was a history teacher, and he was a big FFA guy.
Free for all, always
Future Farmers of America, which I remember.
Yeah. He was a landscaper, and he was well known in his community.
Is he good at Fortnite?
Jim was thrice married, and Jim also happened to be a giant piece of total shit.
What?
Yes, Jim was a fucking asshole. Jim was an abusive, both physically and sexually, to either his wives and their children, and to possible students. There's lots of allegations there, including from his stepdaughters, which is disgusting. And yeah, so Jim was a piece of shit.
So yeah, we've been watching. They have a documentary called what was it called? His Name is Jim, or
My name is Jim.
I can't remember the name of the documentary. Sorry.
That did not go well. Hey, it's even titled that.
What's the documentary called?
I'm trying to show you.
Jim.
The Truth About Jim, not His Name is Jim.
Sorry,
I don't know why I thought it was that, but anyway.
Hey, where's
Listen,
our
my brain no worky.
Where's our Sean Connery poster?
Anyway, I don't have that
You removed it?
prepped. It's in the system.
The Truth About Jim. We've been watching the documentary on Max.
Not to be confused with According to Jim,
Yeah.
which has a completely different Jim in it.
Or the Jim Gaffigan show. Sorry, I was so
This needs
stupid.
cigars.
Anyway,
we're in a silly mood tonight, apparently.
Oh, wait.
I didn't smoke.
I might have.
Maybe I should have.
Yeah, you should have. Anyway,
So we're not quite done with the documentary. I think we have one more episode.
we have one episode left. It's a 4-episode banger.
Yeah, it's really pretty messed up.
It's creepy. It's disturbing. It'll piss you off. It'll make you really selective on who you date. I guess. I would hope. It's definitely a warning. But so this gal Sierra Barter, I think that's her name. Her grandfather, or step-grandfather, was Jim before he died some years ago of some fashion of cancer.
Cool.
And I know, right? That's what I said.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm good.
He
It's
got
usually a really painful way to die.
he got really bad type of cancer. I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, but we have to give them a reason to dislike this guy first.
Yeah.
So let's build on that before we just say wood chipper, which is wood chipper. I don't have the wood chipper
We
thing
need to
up.
tell them what he did.
So Jim, as a teacher, he would confront students in. He liked to assault people in the agricultural thing for the greenhouse.
Mm-hmm.
They had a big greenhouse there. One of them being his stepdaughter from his second marriage to Sharon Yeager, because he was married. No, Sharon Yeager was his first wife, and then Jean Kirkpatrick was his second wife. I believe he has kids with the first wife that are his, or a kid with the first wife.
Yeah.
Or was it? No, it was a third wife. One of them. He had kids with one of them.
Yeah, he had kids from different
And
ladies.
But his second wife,
Different marriages.
Jean Kirkpatrick, her daughters she had a daughter and a son, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or she had two. Well, anyway, one of the kids got molested a bunch.
No, she had daughters. 2 daughters.
Yeah.
And like having to rush into that quickly. We're like, anyway,
he got her working with him doing landscaping. He was assaulting her at the school, and she was a teacher. And so this goes on and on. Well, some years later, when he remarries to Judy, Sierra's grandmother, Judy's mom was already around, and he was her teacher at the high school, the same high school, and would also try to approach her in the greenhouse. Mm-hmm. And would make comments in front of the whole class about her ass and stuff, and he'd get people to rate her and things like that. Basically, really he was the first
messed up stuff.
Yeah, the first greasy internet troll before he was on the internet.
Before there was any internet.
Oh, there was internet. This wasn't that long ago. This was in your lifetime.
Before it was,
the 70s?
More of a common thing.
No, this was not the 70s when this happened. We go back further to the 70s for a reason, though.
Oh, okay.
But also, I want to add a little comment in. When I was at Happen Bay High, there was no greenhouse.
So they probably got rid of it because of this.
So they must have got rid of it at some point.
I don't know. Or because, agriculture is not going anywhere.
Unless I don't remember, but I think I would have remembered a greenhouse being there.
No, they probably
not necessarily.
If there's that stigma around it, they probably got rid of it.
Where the greenhouse is at my high school, it's still there. It's like down a hill off campus a little ways.
It might have been.
Across the street.
I'm trying to remember. It might have been off to the side, like towards. So the high school was built up against like mountains, like hills and mountains behind it, and we were the cougars because there was a ton of cougars on the hill behind the school.
Jesus, how many bars do you have in that town?
Nightclubs all behind the school.
All over the mountain.
Watch out at 6 o'clock, them cougars come out and lock up your sons!
Well, we used to be warned about the cougars on the hill. Don't go on the hill because there's cougars up there, and might attack you.
And now they just hang out at the bar.
Oh yeah, I know a few of them.
Yeah, I see a few. They're always a wreck.
They like to dance.
Anyhow, so Sierra's mom.
Who's Sierra?
Sierra's the documentary maker here. The granddaughter.
She's the granddaughter of Jim.
Now, she wasn't allowed to be around Jim because her mom was like, no, fuck this, he's an asshole. And when she was a baby, they stayed at her mom and Jim's house because, for some reason, something to do with work or school or something. And while they were staying there, one night Jim picked her up from work and took a random turn down this random road and got really weird.
And this was in...
Got really weird with it.
Again? It was like...
I want to say this...
Santa Rosa.
No, this is in... I don't remember where this was. Santa Rosa, somewhere around that area.
Santa Rosa, I think.
And he took her off this road and goes, hey... He had taken her there before and said, hey, they found this dead girl here, hog-tied and stuff. And apparently he would do that with people. And
he would talk about it all the time, like hog-tying his
people.
Daughters. And
I'm going to hog-tie you.
Yeah.
And then kill you. Mm-hmm. And he was very verbally threatening of them.
Like all the time.
Like wanted to murder their faces and very, very abusive to his second wife. Like a lot. And then his second wife was on a date after they left. He drove his daughters to where they were having a date. Got out of the car. Got into the car that they were in. The woman and the guy that were getting hot and heavy. And beat the guy to a bloody pulp before getting back in the car and his daughters cheering him on because they were little girls. Like tiny little things.
Right in front of them.
Yeah, so they had no idea why. They didn't realize what was happening. Yeah. They were just cheering it because that's what they were just like, hey, Dad, cool.
That's their dad, yeah.
Yeah. So don't meet your heroes, kids.
Excuse me.
So some of this stuff, like when Jim died, finally Sierra was allowed to really get back with her grandma and her mom, and them healed their relationship, and they started spending more time together. Mm-hmm. And things started to seem really weird really quick because they started talking about things that had happened. Like something they found after he died, they found a box of random jewelry, like one-off jewelry, not like earrings without a mate. Mm-hmm. A lot of those, some of those apparently, and some other shit that no one could figure out why. They found some guns that they didn't think there should be there. They found a hunting knife or something. He had a hunting knife tucked away somewhere that no one could see in the garage in a weird spot.
Which that is like, I mean, that could be just
he
had a hunting
lot
knife,
of it, realistically,
but,
a lot of this documentary is like that. So
yeah, I mean, a lot of it
ideas.
could be explained, but it was just kind of weird, you know.
Yeah, but he was known to take people by where people had been murdered, and he'd say a girl got murdered here.
Hey, she got hogtied.
And
murdered here. Yeah.
And graped.
And it's like, why? What's the point in you doing that? You know?
Yeah, I mean, I've done stuff like that when I've driven by. Oh, there's a dead body there before. I picked up a guy here when I was a mortician. Things like that. I've had those conversations. Sure, why not? And
he would do it very often.
It's your birthday. Would you like one?
I don't know.
Oh, she's tempted. Tempted by the fruit of another.
Here, I'll hold it and I'll think about it.
There you go.
Are these nice cigars?
Yes, very.
Very nice.
Anyway, so a lot of the stuff, they find these kind of things, and the granddaughter, Sierra, she starts putting 2 and 2 together in her brain, and then 5 and 6 and 7 and 8, and then she's doing calculus, and there's numbers and letters mixed together, and then she goes, oh, this is a Zodiac killer. That's how she jumped to it, pretty much.
No, I mean, she was like, this could be the Zodiac killer because it's kind of adding up.
Why didn't she use the punch? Yeah.
I don't think she was straight. You know.
Well, she was linking shit together. She had a little whiteboard and everything, or board and everything.
Well, yeah. I mean, she was doing investigation, which I think is.
She was investigatory.
That's not even over the punches.
I think that's good. A good way.
It's on the end of that.
Instead of just straight out saying, "Hey, he's the killer,"
and she doesn't
I'm
just
gonna investigate.
She doesn't just accuse him of being the killer. She goes through this whole process of evidence. It's pretty freaking crazy. Aside from just those earrings,
it's pretty good evidence.
They have like the picture of the Zodiac killer. You take the portrait of him, looks like him.
Oh,
the description.
We should have got a picture to pull up.
I see a punch right here.
Well, I don't have a picture of him. We'll do part 2.
Well, the drawing.
Where's the punch? This mystical punch out you said.
The Zodiac killer drawing.
It should be on the end there. One moment, please.
It's not over here, man.
Okay, well then you're doing it wrong.
Oh.
Probably.
What are you looking for?
Hold a punch.
It's just a metal punch.
Stabby thing.
Oh.
That's a punch.
Yeah, there it is.
Okie dokie. So this is the Zodiac killer.
How do they know what he looks like?
What do you mean?
Well, how do they know? I thought no one ever saw the Zodiac killer.
He's here with us.
Found him. Anyway, let's put him
a little young,
put it up,
but all right.
In the corner, up there.
Anyway, wow. So there's the Zodiac killer from the police sketch, and he was a bad guy too, but his stuff wasn't sexual, and the hitchhiker killer was very, very sexual. First few victims were a couple of young. It was a lot of younger girls between like 13 and like 19.
But then the Zodiac killings happened in a different area, right?
Yeah, a different area.
It happened in like San Francisco and.
Yeah, it was after the Zodiac said, "Hey, I'm gonna change up my MO and stuff." But it was so different. Like usually, when a serial killer will change his MO, it won't be that dramatic. Because this is a completely different MO. I mean, we're talking like stripped down, hogtied. Jewelry taken. There was missing jewelry, like usually an earring from the victims of this hitchhiker killer. And in fact, that's what they called it, the hitchhiker killings of Santa Rosa.
Killing.
And yeah, Jim Mordecai, when he was young, looked very strikingly like that picture.
Even with the red tinted
glasses, the short crew cut.
They showed
black hair.
There was the one gal who was friends with the 2 first girls that disappeared. Yeah. And she was with them at a skating rink or an ice cream thing or something when they vanished because they said they were going to get a ride. And then so she saw the guy they were going to get a ride with, and for whatever reason she decided not to go. Mm-hmm. And she saw a picture of Jim Mordecai, and she was
like taken aback.
She was shook, as they say.
She kind of went silent. Cap. She was like. She was shook.
For real? For real?
For real, for real.
She was no cap shook.
On God?
On God.
You even said that all. On God. Bro.
But anyway.
Wrong, cap shoes and a shack.
Sorry, we're getting very off topic here.
I hate myself so much right now.
But yeah, she almost started crying when she saw the picture. She was like, that looks like him. That literally looks like him.
That could absolutely be him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of these things that...
But, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, go for it.
I was just going to say, but there's a lot of guys back in the 60s and 70s, I guess it was the 60s, that looked like that. So,
and when this stuff was brought to the attention of the main guy for the Zodiac killings, he was even like, I can see this, but this isn't, I wouldn't even take this as evidence without something serious. I couldn't just take what you're telling me without really getting more out of it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's heartbreaking hearing what these women went through with this guy.
It's horrible. The wives, the kids, like him saying, I'll slit the daughter's throats. I'll slit your throats. And,
like the one daughter was in a brace or something, and she was freaked out because she was told, hey, you're the age he likes to start doing that. And she somehow avoided it, sounds like. So, yeah, basically just an overall piece of crap.
He was apparently very religious.
To himself.
And he would come into the room and just randomly put out his arms and go, whatever he would say, like, just be weird. He
would start bantering about religious zeal and
speak in
stuff.
tongues and all kinds of weird stuff. And I think he was mentally not right. I think there was.
I concur.
He was either like schizophrenic or.
I put money on it.
Most people that would do that to children are not mentally all right, in my opinion.
I think he might have been, or maybe he had multiple personalities or something. I don't know. But
maybe, but he was a scumbag regardless.
He was a horrible person.
And that was one of the things that she thought reminded her of the Zodiac was his writings were kind of similar. Yeah. He would not let his handwriting be found, hardly ever, because he would always say, well, it's evidence. I don't want evidence used against me.
Which is really peculiar.
Yeah, hiding there, Jim. Old Jimbo. But there's pictures of him in places where questions whether or not he was there for the murders of these hitchhikers. Yeah. He's not directly linked to these hitchhiker murders. The Zodiac Killer has been suspected as well as a few other people. We'll get to that in another episode. But the point of this is like to get into the basics of how weird it is that Katie went to school. At the school this guy taught. What were you just doing with your tongue?
I don't know. Concentrating. I guess. I don't know. But anyway, the way that I came across him is I was on a page on Facebook that was only Half Moon Bay people, or if you lived in Half Moon Bay, you would get this or whatever. And I'm scrolling down, I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that place, and I remember that. And then it goes, hey, does anybody remember this teacher at Half Moon Bay High? And I was like, what? So I looked at the comments, and they're like, yeah, he was my teacher. Like, there's people on there that were saying that he was their teacher back in the 70s. So,
and when
I thought it was pretty interesting.
Like, after he died, the family started being honest about what kind of person he was, and they started getting a lot of hate. There was a thing on, I think it was Facebook, where they posted about him or something, and one of his victims is like, he's a piece of crap. He assaulted me, and they just tore into her. Because there was another victim that was a student of his, and he would have these hot tub sessions. So he had a hot tub, and he'd have girls from the school over, hang out in the hot tub with him, which is
very inappropriate.
Freaking no-no all the way around. Whether you're trying to sputz them or not, you're trying to sputz them at that point. Let's just be real.
Yeah. And they're underage, so...
I don't even like getting in the hot tub, like, with my kids at a hotel room. Just because they're loud and I want to relax in a fucking hot tub. You know, this guy was doing it for nefarious reasons altogether.
You know, there's a huge problem with, how do I put this? There are a lot of people who put forward, like, in this modern era, there's a lot of people who know about false accusations and stuff like that, and there are people out there saying there's no such thing. That's bullshit. We all hear of at least 1 or 3 million stories where there was some bullshit happening. In fact, there was a guy who served, I think he served 2 or 3 years in prison for an assault of like 5 girls, and it wasn't until one of them said something weird that his lawyer went and looked into it, and they found like a group chat where they had planned this because they didn't like him because he had dated them and was sleeping with all of them, and then never did anything to him, but he falsely accused him. And he served like 2 or 3 years in prison, and he wound up suing them. And I guess they wound up doing time. And then there was another guy who didn't do anything, and he also had that. So what's happened here is that you've got this problem where everything kind of has an equal and opposite reaction. Yeah. And the unfortunate reaction in this modern era is when those accusations come against someone who's popular, like Dr. Disrespect. When someone who's popular has a lot of people, and someone comes forward and says, "Hey, I was a victim."
Dr. Disrespect kind of did it, so...
Yeah, no.
Yeah, he was a creep.
But part of the problem is, even with proof, like, say, for this instance, where the family came forward and said, "No, yeah, he was doing stuff like this."
And it was multiple... family members and people.
Yeah. And
other
there were a shit ton of people who said yeah, and there were family members vouched. The problem is that there are people who don't know that side of the story, or they think it's bullshit, and so they say, "Well, I like this guy; he was really nice."
He got mad.
And so they have a tendency to rail on a person who was an actual victim without knowing the whole story.
He got mad at his third wife, Judy, Sierra's grandmother, and cracked her head with the freaking trunk of the car door. Like, she was in the trunk and got mad at her.
And she was all like, "Oh yeah, she's such a what do you call it? Passive.
She is way too passive.
A pacifist.
Yeah.
She's like, "Oh yeah, he got mad and like, hit my head," and it was just like, wouldn't you be more scared or upset
or something like that?
Something. Something's wrong.
Like, she was too unwilling to have conflict. She's a zero. What is it?
Really,
toxic. She had a term for it. My mother's
enabler.
Toxic enabler.
Enabler. Yeah. She gave him the benefit of the
doubt.
doubt.
No, she said she was toxically kind.
She gave him
toxic
the benefit
kindness.
of the doubt, for sure.
She said her mom had toxic kindness, which I think is a great term.
She's
Because a lot of people have this, and I've always been a big proponent here when it comes to if you're being abused, get help. Just freaking get help.
And talk to people.
Yeah.
It's not just that,
go
but
tell somebody.
if you're scared, like the way I put it to people is like when you're really scared to do that because people won't believe you or something, is to tell people then in secret start a recording on your phone when you know something's about to happen. Recording. Don't let it be known. Get everything you can together that shows something. Yeah. And then most importantly, remember something. If it's bad enough to where they're hospitalizing you or something, I cannot emphasize this enough. I know people are very scared, but someone needs to hear it out there, and it needs to get through their head that this is true. The person has to fucking sleep eventually, and there are heavy objects in every home.
Okay, we do not. No, stop
weak.
It.
Your head is less strong than a watermelon.
You just asked a bunch of people to commit a crime.
We don't condone this, though. I'm just saying. I was just saying they sleep eventually.
Yesterday, I get accused of bleeding Tim the Tatman's brother, and now you're sabotaging the whole show.
Or even even if you're in a dangerous situation.
Please don't hurt people. Go to the police.
Yeah.
If you're in a dangerous situation, you don't know what to do. Call the police and just leave it on.
Yeah.
Don't say anything. Just put your phone down and have them listen and hear what's going on.
And remember to say your address in some way because cell phones don't give that information.
Yeah, exactly.
So
there's also
stop beating me in the head with a hammer at 724 Maple Drive.
No,
they wouldn't even.
Actually, it's
I shouldn't make fun of that, but I mean, I just said
no. They can look up your number.
There is a way to do something, and that is I know that some police stations will answer to ordering a pizza. So you call them and you say, "I would like a pepperoni pizza," and then they'll say, "This is 911." Say, "Yeah." And then they'll pick up right away. They'll be like, "Oh, okay." So
that's a code.
Although I've
help?
seen
And then they'll
911
ask if you need
operators,
help.
I've seen videos of 911 operators that are the dumbest people on the planet.
Oh my god! Did you ever
and
see
then they
one
lecture you?
Did you ever see that one that happened to Kid Rock?
When his his
friend rolled the three-wheel or whatever and died.
Killed himself on accident.
They were arguing for 30 minutes because he's like, "I don't know what's wrong with him. Just send an ambulance." And she was just yelling at him.
She needs to be in jail.
Yeah,
she was
being a douche. I've heard a lot of 911 calls where the operator just keeps asking questions.
Just
instead of fucking send
the one gal
out.
The one 911 operator, it was her last day or week on the job, and it was during all these floods. And this gal was trapped in her van, actively drowning, and she was lecturing the woman to calm down and yelling at her.
Please calm down.
That bitch needs to spend the rest of her life in jail.
It's no, send the police out to save these people.
I'm not saying she caused her to drown, but that is not the way you handle your shit.
This is one of the reasons.
That's criminal.
Yeah.
How do I put this? For the longest time, I was not someone who believed that you should be allowed to have a big weapon or anything like that. Well, I thought a pistol or a shotgun was enough, or a hunting rifle. And then I started hearing stories about 4 or 5 people breaking into a house, and I was like, no, you should definitely have something that can punch through people.
Okay, here's the other thing. I've heard that stupid argument too. You can have a hunting rifle and a shotgun, but you don't need an AR-15. Why? Well, the AR-15 is more powerful. I'm like, you
No,
know
it's
nothing.
not.
You know literally nothing about firearms or ammunition. Shut the fuck up. Just
Dude,
shut up. It's not. You're dumb. My 30-30 is more powerful than your fucking 5.56.
If anyone ever says that to you, like, you don't need an AR-15, you could have a shotgun. Have you ever seen what a shotgun will do to a human being?
I
really
have.
Close range.
I personally
Explode
have.
their
You turn into
insides?
basically a giant puddle when
Yeah.
enough buckshot hits you at a close range.
I have seen what a 5.56 round will do to a human skull, and I've seen what a shotgun will do to a human skull. Personally, as a mortician,
He really has.
and the shotgun leaves way worse damage.
Okay, we're
Visually.
getting off topic
Anyway.
here.
Yes.
Oh,
Let's
anyways,
not get on the gun
But
topic.
you see, it's things like that with this guy, for instance, that I'm very much a proponent of everybody kind of like learning early on how to defend themselves, how to use a firearm, how to defend themselves
So
with weaponry.
here's the problem with that. Jim Mordecai was an athletic, strong guy who had guns.
Yeah, he was in good
Oh.
shape.
And he would frequently threaten his daughter. He had one daughter
He
that he
was
just
strong.
doted on, and she was like anything she wanted kind of thing.
Yeah.
And he would get ready to freak out, and she'd be able to calm him down, and nobody else would be able to. That's a scary thing.
Let me put it like this. I mean, what I mean by defense, though, is I really do think that schools should be required to. They should have a national martial art, like karate, BJJ, or Muay Thai or kickboxing, and every student should be required to learn it because it doesn't just teach you discipline. It also teaches you to realize that though you're scared, you need to take action.
Yeah. Well.
But I feel like you're gonna get the wrong people learning how to do that.
Well,
stuff.
that's
But if everybody
that's
learns it.
just fine. If everybody learns it, it's equal.
If
round.
everybody learns it, then equal
I'd
left,
rather
equal
things
right.
were equal, you know. But
Yeah.
so the guy was so violent. He took one of his wives, the second one, Jean, and as she was trying to leave the house, he came up behind her like in a horror movie, dragged her back in, put her on the ground,
Texas Chainsaw.
put his gun in her mouth, and was going to shoot her, and said he was going to shoot her in the head. And she was like, she said something, "You're going to leave your daughters without a mother," and that's what stopped him. And he just stopped. He just stopped.
He actually had guilt.
Well, I don't think it was guilt.
Or he felt bad, or I don't know.
No, he was well, okay, the daughters. He genuinely cared about his daughters, it feels like. Which is weird to say. One daughter definitely more than the other. All the kids that were involved with this guy had a real hard time.
Well, and
basically.
he was a pedophile, so.
That doesn't help.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, probably what went through his head was you got to think about it in the objective way, because if they were to think like he was the Zodiac killer, one of the reasons the Zodiac killer was so hard to find was because every killer has an MO. Mm-hmm. And they all want to get caught in some way because they want to be famous.
Well, he's still hard to find because they haven't found him.
They never found him.
They found a guy that they thought was him, and they didn't have enough evidence to convict him.
One of the reasons it's so difficult to find him is because he doesn't have an MO. It seems like he doesn't give a shit. He doesn't care. He kills anyone basically. He was an opportunity killer.
He has an absolute MO. What are you talking about?
He didn't have an MO.
We're gonna do a whole episode on the Zodiac soon, so.
I thought it was. I know the Green River had an MO. I know BTK had an MO.
Everybody has an MO. Zodiac would write letters to newspapers with all this weird.
Well, so did BTK.
Zodiac. Yeah, so did he.
And
But the difference is that.
couples.
Mm-hmm.
But the difference is they could never
It wasn't
bait.
sexually based.
But they could never bait the Zodiac killer. They could never injure his pride enough for him to say, "Hey, I did this," and then out himself, like the BTK, for instance.
That or they did, and they caught him, and we just don't know they caught him. I mean, there's a lot of things that go on. So one of the pathologies of a serial killer is they tend to morph and change how they're going to do things. And that's what he said he was going to do before he disappeared. And so the thought now might be that Mordecai was both.
The Zodiac and the Santa Rosa hitchhiker.
Yeah,
Killer.
but he's not either currently. As far as legality goes, he's neither of these things.
And he's also dead. So.
But with the hitchhiker killer, which I don't think it's the same as the Zodiac killer, I do lean towards Jim Mordecai for this.
Yeah.
Also, other suspects about this guy too, about that killer as well. He was just in the parts that he would know. It was always weird off-shot roads that were super rural that nobody else would know. Always the same MO, hog-tied,
In a
SA.
ditch. They're all the same age. Around the same age.
Young girls.
Like 13, 14, 12, 13, 14. Around that age.
It was
which is really sad.
13 to 19.
Which is really horrible. Yeah.
So,
super young.
But all the way up to my county, Humboldt, where they think that
there
he was
was
involved.
A couple of them were traveling up here, I don't know if they made it up here.
No,
they were going to here.
Yeah, they were traveling and then they ended up getting killed because they were hitchhiking.
And so, if you don't know California, even though where we're at in Eureka and San Francisco is 5 hours away.
That's a far drive.
Oregon is closer than San Francisco.
That's a far trip. Yeah.
By a couple of hours.
Let me put it like this, because actually that's where I was going with that.
But it's connected by one road.
The thing about what makes the Zodiac killer and stuff like that, and maybe the Hitchhiker killer so different was that they were, like I said, all the killers always they give themselves away in some way. Like they have either calling or card, and he did with the earrings. But the thing is here is that I imagine he didn't pull that trigger or kill her because when it came down to it, he knew if he did this, they would look into him, and there was no way he could possibly get away with everything. Like he would get caught for shit all of a sudden, and he didn't want to get caught, and he would go to prison. He was whoever did those killings was not like other killers where they just weren't afraid of prison. They were just nuts. This guy, on the other hand, he probably was sane enough to know that he did not want to go to prison, which means he was being as careful as he possibly could.
Well, I don't know that because they collected semen from one of the victims at least. But, they didn't have anything to link him to this at all. There was no reason for them to think that Jim Mordecai, I don't think he was ever actually a suspect in the Hitchhiker killings at all, like until this documentary came out.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, it's like, it's not impossible. You get a lot of people who go back like, what was it? It was that joke from, what the hell is it? Was it Oh Brother Where Art Thou? Or that was that joke where you could just like, literally spray paint the wall of your name of your gang on the fucking wall and no one would even be able to find you tomorrow because you couldn't find people. And like in the 70s there was mass communication still, but there wasn't really a way to like
Oh Brother Where Art Thou? I think we watched a different Oh Brother Where Art Thou.
Yeah,
I can't remember. It was
that's absolutely not in that movie.
That movie took place in
Spray
like the
paint
30s.
Idiot. Sorry, I'm an idiot. No. They were
Some
using
of the Warriors?
No, they used a Tommy gun to like they would use a Tommy gun to put their name in the wall or something. It's like and I remember where it's from now. It was it was a comedian. It was that really skinny comedian.
Dave
what's
Chappelle?
his name? White skinny dude.
Any number of them? Most of them?
He tells a joke where they're in the basement partying and stuff like that. The cops show up. He says and they're all shouting "fuck the police." And God, what was his name? Anyways, then the point is he made a joke about how like in those days, back in the old days, like the 50s and stuff like that, when the gangsters were around, there was just no way to find most of these people because it just wasn't. It's not like modern day where how do I put this? At any given time, if you're in modern society, they know where you are, and you are easy to find.
There's a lot of missing people.
If you have a cell phone, if you access your email, if you access Facebook, if you access a cell phone, any of those things, you are findable, and you are findable rather quickly.
Back then, they didn't have all that, so.
That's what I'm saying.
Harder to find people.
You could commit a crime on one block, go down to the next block, and you'd be
if
hard
that
to
were
find.
true, we'd know where Waldo was right now.
But he doesn't have a cell phone, probably.
Waldo always has a cell phone.
Waldo just travels. He doesn't use cell phones.
So the cell phone is just stacks, mad
stacks. The point is like, in that time period, he could have done all that stuff, and it would be really hard to judge because I don't think DNA was really big until like the late 80s, early 90s, right?
DNA?
Like the DNA.
It was used mostly in the 90s, started really.
Yeah,
the OJ trial was when most of America
heard about DNA. They didn't really have it in the 70s.
And there were points like I think there was like 70s or 80s when it was like just starting to hear about it.
The database is itty bitty.
There were some detectives who started hearing rumors about it, and so they started collecting like evidence, like blood and stuff like that at scenes. And they said, well, maybe one day when this is advanced enough, we'll be able to test it.
Well, and the Federal Crime Lab is pretty much the only place that had it for a long time.
Yeah.
It's like, fingerprints. That was invented by the Pinkertons, which was a private policing force.
Well, my question is, why weren't they able to go back and test the DNA from the Zodiac, like, notes and stuff?
Because DNA doesn't hold on certain surfaces as well, and it's different kinds of DNA. Certain DNA
There's nothing
breaks down.
that they could have tested?
There's no DNA evidence of the Zodiac killer that I'm aware of. There's no DNA evidence for the.
I mean, you could lick the glue on a stamp or something.
I don't think Zodiac left any DNA behind at all. It wasn't sexual.
Oh, he was wearing gloves or something.
I mean, it wasn't that hard just to shoot somebody.
I mean, I would say Hitchhiker Killer, but it's a weird, huge jump to go from the Hitchhiker Killer.
Well, the earrings, the box of jewelry really sets it off. The problem was they got rid of that.
They gave it away
They fucking donated it or
garage
something.
sale or something.
And they have that would have solved the case immediately because they still have the pair of the extra earrings from the victims of the hitchhiker killers. They have all the shit that was still there and they could have easily solved this case and put it at rest, but the family got rid of it. So if you guys are going through a late relative's things and you see something like a box of jewelry, but it's all mismatched and there's only one of each earring, save it. Especially if he was a creepy asshole.
Bring it to the police.
Or if you find a reel of films in a lockbox under your grandfather's upstairs attic armoire.
And a weird, creepy demon starts appearing in it.
Don't
look at it ever again.
And you look at it and it says snuff. Just bring it to the cops. I've seen 8mm. I know what this is.
Oh, I thought
you don't want to Nicolas Cage this too much. Trust me. That movie was harsh.
What movie?
8mm.
I've never seen it.
I've never seen
You've never seen 8mm?
No.
Classic Nicolas Cage movie
Maybe
where he's a
that's why
private
Nicolas Cage
investigator.
went insane.
A rich widow has hired him to look at some films that she found in her husband's safe after he dies to see if they were real. Snuff films, and she wanted to make sure they weren't real.
Okay,
well, I'm not going to spoil it, but you can see where this is going.
I love Nicolas Cage. He's awesome.
Go to the police with your creepy things.
That was before Nicolas Cage completely sold himself out to shit movies.
Although,
just like Bruce Willis.
The one that he did about the animatronics was funny.
Willy's Wonderland was great.
Willy's Wonderland was great, and he didn't talk one time.
And that was one of the reasons it was great. Yeah. No offense, Nicolas Cage. You were amazing in Con Air and The Rock.
And Face Off.
And, Face Off.
I love Face Off.
Take his face
so off.
They're just excellent.
Him and what's his name?
Oh God, my eyes! I love my eyes! I hate the Wicker Man so much.
The bees!
The bees are stinging my eyes.
Oh, we're really getting off topic.
All right, well, we're gonna call this one an episode and come back
we're gonna continue
with
next
more
week.
Information and a more put together show. And this is kind of.
But it was my birthday episode.
Word.
Kinda.
Word. So, thanks for watching. Again, I'm
Word
Jay.
to your mother.
If you guys are into gaming, video games and whatnot, check me out, Mood Juice Magic on Twitch, or check out my YouTube page, Mood Juice Magic. Always check out this YouTube channel and make sure that you comment and like it. Make sure there's the same amount of comments as there are likes is awesome, especially when there's a lot of likes. So do that.
And share.
Share with people. Tell them.
Start
share the glory that is Vanishing Gates, and you also can learn these important things and life lessons for you and yours. I'm Jay, and these are
the No Longer Cigarless Jack.
Katie Cat.
The birthday girl. Hey, good night and good nightmares.
Goodbye, everybody. Almost. We're gonna get there.